Okay, so I am back again at the Porsche. I've sort of lost count of the amount of days that I've been doing on this. I don't know whether this is day 5, 4 or 5. But that light's rather bright there. I'm not really going to spend too much time videoing today because I'm just going to be grinding bolts off the manifold, which you've seen pretty much in the last video. So I will just update a bit later on with the progress that I've made.
After a few hours work yesterday, I think it's about 4 hours, I just thought I'd show you the progress I'm making. It all looks pretty terrible under here at the moment, but it just goes to show really how difficult this job can be if you don't want to, or if you decide not to cut the bolts off and drill all of them. That's something I absolutely didn't want to do. So I just thought I'd try and get them out, as many as I could at least, with the method that I decided to take, which was cutting as much of the old manifold back, which is pretty much knackered anyway, and getting at the bolts. So I managed to get 4 of them out. You can see them there. Oops, where are they? 1, 2, 3, and then there's another one under there. 4. But these 2 end ones are proving to be really difficult. That one there is almost snapped. There's a crack through it now, having heated up and turned it so much, and it's just not budging at all. And the same with this one here. I can't really get the angle grinder in there to cut the last bit of that manifold off. So it's pretty tricky, but I'm going to leave it at this side for today, and I'm going to make a start on the other side. These are the bolts as they came out. You can see how I've had to grind off the heads of these to get them to detach from the manifold flange, as it were. But you can see all of them. The thread is fine on the inside. This one, you can see, has got some rust along the top there, which was going through the manifold flange. But the cleaner bit is obviously where it went into the block. They're all pretty much the same, but once I freed those up from the manifold flange, they came out, I won't say easily, but they came out okay with a monkey wrench. But those 2, as I just showed you, either end of the manifold are really stubborn and very difficult to get out. As ever, after 4 hours of working underneath the car, it looks absolutely terrible in here, really dusty, really dirty. So I'm going to start by tidying up the workshop. So this time round, this bracket came out a little bit easier actually. Strangely enough, I expected it to be more difficult because the bolts on the left-hand side of the car, obviously because it's a right-hand drive car in England, this is the side that gets most of the potholes and the puddles and everything. But they seem to come out easier than they did on the other side. I had to get the bolts, these bolts from the top of this bracket. There's very little space between the chassis and the engine. So what I've done is I've lowered the engine down on its mounts a little bit. You probably gain about 10 mil maybe, but it helps to get the bracket out, and also I guess a little bit to get some kind of a tool in there. There is probably a specialist tool for it, but I had to make up my own. So the size of these bolts are an E12, and what I had to do, because there's no room to get a proper socket in there, I had to take a part off an old socket set that I have, fitted that into there, and then put that on the end of there, which made a very compact kind of tool to do it. These are great things, these sort of ratchet spanners. There's probably a much better way of doing it, probably a tool that you can buy, but that's the way I did it. And actually these bolts have now all come out, which didn't take too long, about 15-20 minutes. It took far longer on the other side. But now what I've got to do is I'm going to cut off the manifold to be able to drop this bracket down. I'll show you the best method that I found to get these bolts out. So first of all, it's cutting these manifolds back, and then getting as much as the rust away as you can from the base of the nut. But then, because of the space constraints, let me just what I did was get a Dremel with got a big grinding bit on there, quite a thin one, and then literally just going around the base of the nut like that, Fits all the way around there. It's quite a good little tool to get in there, just to break the join from the flange to the nut, because that's where the problem is. In general, the screws within the head aren't that bad. You know, they're pretty good threads. And yeah, as I say, it's just breaking that join between the rusted nut, which is rusted to the flange. So once you've got that away, they're not even that tight in there, to be honest. You know, I heated it up obviously using the blowtorch, and then they come away like that. There's a bit of rust on them there, as you can see, but it hasn't travelled up that far into the thread. And that's that out. The only problem is, and I've got it on the other side, these four came out okay, but these two are really difficult. They're just not budging at all, so I've obviously got to cut that section of the manifold off still on this side, make some space, and on that side to clear them up and try and get to them. So
Ed, I was just about to cut that bolt off and I thought, oh bollocks, I'll try it one more time by whacking an old socket bit on there and edged it backwards and forwards, and the bloody thing came out. So on one side I've got one broken bolt. So on this side I've got one broken bolt in the block, and then on this side I've got one as well, so you can see it.
That one there is broken, and that's still in there. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to whack that thing on there again and see if I can get that out.
Okay, so that actually worked. I can't believe it. So I've got the two out by banging on a socket, and you can see these end bolts, the ones that have come out, are just totally rusted on the inside. They're obviously not as protected as the internal ones, or the four that are inside the manifold. And it's just full of rust, so no wonder it doesn't come out. Yes, I've got two broken in there, and I just got the last two out.
Look at the pile of junk that has come off the car in order to change the silencers. And you can see just how much carnage there is, really. This part of the manifold I had to cut in half. It's a lot of work to get them off if your header bolts are as rusted as mine were. You can see by this, the amount of cutting you have to do to cut the rusted fused metal of the bolt heads to the manifold flange. You just have to cut all around them. And with that in situ and using an angle grinder, it is very, very difficult because it's just, it's just so tight up in there. But there we are.
Quick video of the cylinder head as it is now with the manifolds off. I've stuffed some gauze up there to stop any sparks flying up into the cylinders, but that is my 1/8. Well, on this side, my single bolt that's broken off, and it's the same on the other side. Really lucky that it's this one, because if it's this one, it's very difficult to. I mean, you've got to drain the water, the system, and to be able to get a drill to this hole here. It's a bit difficult on the other side. I'll have to move. I'll show you. Just over here, I will have to get to that broken bolt there. Where is it? Just in there. I'll have to drain the system and remove all these hoses, because I won't be able to get a drill bit in there, unfortunately. But such is life. Otherwise, the rest of it's looking like that.
Okay, so it's the next day, and I'm back at the Porsche, and I got quite far yesterday. I managed to get the manifold bolts out. All 12 of them out, but 2 of them snapped off, unfortunately, so you can't win it all. But I think 10 out of 12 isn't bad, really. So I'm going to have to work out how to drill those 2 snapped off stubs out of the cylinder head, essentially, or out of the block, really. So, but I'm going to leave that today. So I'm going to work on the cats today. So I'm going to tidy up the cats a little bit. They're rusted, but still in very good condition on the inside. So I'm going to take off the O2 sensors, find a plastic bath around here somewhere, and fill it up with hot water and washing liquid, and give them a good old soaking and a wash out. And then I will dry them out, rub them down, using the angle grinder, like the wire brush on the angle grinder, and paint them. So I've got some heat resistant spray, which is what I did the headers in last summer, and I'm going to use that.
First of all, these are the header bolts here. You can see how I got them all out by grinding the heads down away from the manifold flange. That's what they all look like. They all look in pretty decent condition on the inside. What I mean is that the thread that was on the inside of the block, but these here are the two that snapped off. So I got 10 out and snapped 2. But there we are, as I said. So the heat resistant spray that I've got is this. It's a grey colour, flame-proof VHT spray, very high temperature, so that ought to do the trick. So just going over here, this is all the bits here. I've boxed some of them up just to try and keep the workshop a bit tidy. Those are the heat shields that I'm going to clean up and reuse, because buying, on top of the whole job, buying new heat shields and stuff, ideally that's what you do at this stage. But it's just, you know, it's just so much money in the end. So here are the catalytic converters. I've put like a rust remover on here to try and make these O2 sensors easier to get off. But I'm going to rub these down and repaint them. I'm also probably going to reuse these brackets here and these brackets with new stainless steel bolts. But yeah, see how we get on. But that's the first job of today, removing those O2 sensors and cleaning these up. So quick update on the day's work. I have been spending a bit of time cleaning up this catalytic converter. I've washed them. I actually used a shower at work to put some washing up liquid in and then run it through with some warm water. I couldn't get the O2 sensors out, so I made sure I dried them off straight away, put them out in the sun, and then warmed it all up. So I'm hoping that's fine. And then I spend a bit of time with the wire brush on the angle grinder, just cleaning up all of the rust on here. And also, I'll tell you what took ages, and you can see it on this one here. 2 of the 3 bolts came out, but this one didn't, and it's still not drilled wide enough for an M8 bolt. I've got to buy another drill bit because I went through about 5 or 6 drill bits. Trying to get that out. Those studs that are in there, the original Porsche studs, are hardened steel. They're really, really difficult to drill through. So either that or I've got really bad drill bits, but I did spend quite a bit of money on getting some good drill bits. But as I say, that's exactly the same on that one over there, which is drying in the sun at the moment. But yeah, now I'm going to paint it using this flame-proof paint. Okay, so I'm probably going to leave it there for today. I've managed to get that catalytic converter cleaned out, rubbed down and painted. I'll do the same thing to the other one, of course, and yeah, that'll be that done. I've got to buy a few brackets from Porsche because the ones that came off are totally rusted and knackered. So yeah, but that's where we are at the moment.